Reaching people is just not going to happen by accident. It's amazing how many of us think that growth just happens. No, it comes from the Holy Spirit, yes, but it also comes through careful planning and execution. So do you have a plan? Have you provided a clear strategy that your leaders could articulate? Related to that, is evangelism and disciple making actively practiced by your leadership? Are you holding them accountable for it? In my experience, the first discipline to grow cold is evangelism. My pastor growing up used to say that the first thing on your body that gets cold is almost always your feet. Well, the same is true for us spiritually. In fact, ironically, sometimes growth of a church covers up the fact that our leaders are no longer personally doing the relational work of evangelism. That happened to our church. For years, our church was growing for different reasons. I mean, it was exciting. People were hearing about us, but several of our leaders, including me, allowed that attendance growth to hide the fact that we weren't ourselves making disciples. And then at some point, our growth slowed, which inevitably it does. And it became clear that a lot of us had grown complacent in our evangelism. Our feet were cold. So now evangelism is something we talk about all the time, and we even make it a part of our evaluation processes. So have a plan and then work the plan. Talk about it continuously. Remember, in our first session, we talked about our strategy that we use called Who's Your One, where we encourage everybody in our church to have a one that they're reaching out to, praying for, seeking to bring to Christ. That's the single best evangelism accountability tool that we have. We apply it at all levels on our staff, among our volunteers, and our small groups. We just ask, let's talk about our one and what God's doing in their lives. Beyond that, as a church, we try to provide what I call TOMS, stands for tools, opportunities, and models. To grow as a witness, people, first of all, need clear, easily accessible tools. What I mean by that is I would encourage you to have a favored tool that you teach your people to share the gospel with. For us, we use the bridge diagram. We also use a course called Exploring Christianity that we offer on Sundays. We train people how to use these courses in their neighborhoods. My book, Essential Christianity, is a part of that process that we use. And these are our tools that we say, hey, this will make it easy for you. You can walk somebody through this. Here's opportunities. That means creating opportunities for your people to share their faith. In the church I grew up in, your first act of discipleship after accepting Jesus was to go out door knocking. I'm not kidding. I was saved on a Friday and went out door knocking the next Wednesday. It's not the most fruitful evangelism strategy in terms of effectiveness, but the good thing was we got really comfortable sharing the gospel, and those doorstep encounters made it easier to share with friends and neighbors later. In the modern church, we've mostly gotten away from door-to-door soul winning because in most places it's no longer that effective. People don't tend to listen to strangers about anything. But this is the problem with the fact that we've gotten away from it, is that we don't have a great replacement for it in terms of giving people familiarity with sharing the gospel. So encourage people to go on mission trips and train them in evangelism before you do. We even take our staff and leaders out from time to time to do old school cold call survey evangelism on a beach or at an event. To grow in evangelism, people need opportunities to share the gospel. And then lastly here, models. Models. People learn to share the gospel best by seeing others do it. You can help facilitate that by telling stories in your church, in your staff meetings or your leadership meetings. Feature testimonies or video stories often. When we baptize somebody at our church, we will often put in the tank with the person being baptized, the person that led them to Christ. They will help us baptize the person, and we'll use that moment to recount the story of how they shared Christ with that person. It gives our people models to emulate. Remember, what you celebrate, you replicate.